Welcome to Smart Branding, a podcast dedicated to branding, naming, and domain names. I'm Tatiana Bonneau, and with my guests, we try to help you create and grow strong, memorable, and meaningful brands online. I believe time is one of our most precious assets, and so I want to thank you in advance if you decide to spend the next 30 minutes with us. I promise to do my best to make those worth it. Let's go! My guest today is David Bessler. He's the founder and CEO of Veterinary Emergency Group. Now I get why you have the VEG acronym. So hi, and thank you for joining us today, David.
Thanks, Tatiana, so much for having me.
So let's start with my classic first question. Give me a bit of background. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how did you get to do what you do today?
So the first thing to know is I'm an emergency veterinarian. I've always been an emergency veterinarian. It's, going about 20 years now. And I was always fulfilled by helping people and their pets when they need it most. That's, I say, the second grader definition of emergency veterinary medicine. And that's what I always did. And that's why I found a fulfilling career here. About almost 10 years ago, I struck out on my own and bought one small nights and weekends veterinary emergency clinic, which there were several of around the United States. They were usually founded by the local veterinary community would get together and open a place so that they didn't have to wake up in the middle of the night to see their own emergencies. And so I bought one of those and then did things very, very differently because I'd always been an emergency vet and I'm a different kind of person. I thought outside the box and started doing things very, very differently from the way that emergency veterinary medicine had been done for the past 100 years. And that resonated with a lot of people. It resonated with a lot of employees. And that one business was more successful. I opened up a second in 2015, and that one was reasonably successful. I met my business partner in 2016. We got a big investment in 2017. And so since July of 2017, we've gone from two emergency hospitals to today we have 64 in 21 states in the United States, 4,000 employees. And it's a very different thing than when I first started, but there are some, core values and core principles that have stayed the same and have brought us a lot of success. That's my background.
I immediately what struck me is, and you had that in your description, I believe on LinkedIn, or the company description is about helping people and their pets. So there's people there, which is something I think a lot of people miss. And it's funny because it's immediately reminded me, because I'm I was going to say a dog person, but equally a cat person. I get a pet person. But having gone through, especially with dogs, with quite a few dog trainers, it oftentimes you hear from them saying you actually have to train the owner more than the dog.
Yeah, very true.
and in a way that's reflected where you're helping actually the person and their pet. That's really
in our mission statement, helping people and their pets when they need it most. That's a very deliberate order, people first, because first of all, just from a business perspective, the pets don't decide where they're going to go. It's their people who decide where they're going to go. And also, one thing that we say, and we can talk more about, I call them memes, but we say when one patient walks in, two patients walk in. In an emergency situation, the pet owner, the entire pet family, they're often having a crisis as well. They're very, very nervous. They're scared. They may be shocked by whatever it is that's going on, and they need specific treatment as well. And we have to be experts in treating people too, in that respect. So that's a very deliberate.
Absolutely. You should probably launch into people hospitals as well, because I have to say, as you're saying that, I have 4 kids, so I've been through a lot of more hospital experiences with kids than with my pets. And what you just said, when you walk into, especially in an emergency situation, you don't really know what's happening and what the outcomes can be and so forth. You arrive at the hospital, and obviously, yes, the doctors are starting to, put their attention on the patient, but the rest of the family, the people, like they are, worried and they need information and they need some treatment that usually even like in some really advanced places, countries, clinics have been is not there at all, not to even talk about the level of it.
Yes, one thing we do, a big differentiator for us is keeping people and their pets together. It's one thing that we do very differently. We have 7 spikes, which are our big differentiators when it comes to customer experience. And probably the one that we're most known for is this open hospital concept, keeping people and their pets together. The norm, at least in the United States, and it's probably the most of the world, where your pet is usually taken from you into the back, where they do whatever it is that they need to do. That lack of transparency is a big problem in an emergency situation. I think it's a problem in general, but it certainly decreases trust, or maybe increases distrust between the care providers and the pet family. And so by keeping people and their pets together, people are able to see everything that's going on. And so it's a real situation. Emergency is emergency. We have care providers who are legitimately and authentically trying to help. And for pet owners to see that authenticity is very, very helpful to understand that we're all on the same side trying to help your pet. So that's one big differentiator. And that's for us, something that we try to get across to people. I think if they haven't had an emergency and come to us, they may not understand how important that aspect is.
Let's talk about the name. You have a very descriptive, obvious name, Veterinary Emergency Group. Has it always been that name? Like, how did that evolve? How did it get chosen?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first hospital that I bought was called the Veterinary Emergency Group. And the veterinarians in the area who had built that hospital, and the veterinarians in the area who used to send their cases there when they were closed at night, they would call it the veg. That's just what they called it, the veg. And when we grew, I didn't feel the need to change it. I felt that Veterinary Emergency Group was useful for people to see when they drove by. For example, a very important thing for us is, from a marketing standpoint, is for people to know about us before the need arises. It's much less risky when people go where they know, instead of having to first start Googling or calling their vet or calling friends when they have an emergency. If they know about us before the need arises, that's very helpful, especially if they know about us and know that they're going to have a great experience. They don't even bother worrying if there's a new place that has popped up. They know that they had a great experience last time. So the drive-by is important. People drive by, they see Veterinary Emergency Group, and they say, oh, I know where I'm going to go if I have an emergency with my pet. So we kept that, and it worked well for us. It is a mouthful. And so having the acronym VEG is certainly helpful when people that are in the know, they've been to us before, they know that we refer to ourselves as veggies. We refer to our company as VEG. And there's actually a nice thing that happened whenever we've thought about rebranding. We realized, we're just veg. That's what we've always been called. It stands for something. It's not a made-up name for no reason. There's a bit of authenticity. One of our core values, we have 4 core values, and one of them is openness. And that relates to authenticity and the idea that we haven't made up a name for marketing reasons or to make it sound catchy. I think lets people know right away when they say, like, oh, veg, what does that mean? Oh, it's Veterinary Emergency Group. That makes a lot of sense. It's just straightforward, authentic. And we're also not afraid to be quirky if it's real. When you walk into our hospitals, there are wires hanging from the ceiling. There's lab equipment that's fully visible, pharmacy that's fully visible. Patients, we keep all of our families together. So that's something that people don't realize. When you walk into our ER, all of the families are being treated there out in the open. So every family can see every other family's emergency. So that's part of the authenticity. It is what it is. We don't try to hide anything. And so if veg is a weird name like vegetable or it's just fine, we have nothing to hide. It's really Veterinary Emergency Group, and there's nothing wrong with the word veg. And so we kept it, and it's catchy for a weird, quirky reason, and that's fine.
Yeah, no, I love it. I like the logo as well. I keep looking at it behind you. It's very cool.
Yeah, the logo.
Yeah, there's
I was an art student at one point in my life.
Okay.
So I do have a graphic sensibility, I would say. But I actually designed this logo,
Oh
certainly the
yeah.
concept of it myself. We've had other people have tightened it up and made it a little more professional. But the idea of, we call it the paw of life, which is really the paw print in middle of what's called the star of life, which is not a trademarkable thing, the star itself. The way
Mm.
I looked at it is, again, I'm a big fan of simplicity. I think simplicity travels. And I like to say, this is alien for veterinary emergency. I think if we put this on a rocket ship and sent it into space and aliens found it, they would understand, like, oh, that's veterinary emergency. I love
Absolutely.
that simplicity. That's where the logo came from.
Yeah, I love it. I think I mentioned that recently in a podcast. I'm going to say it again because I really love it. I was reading a book, and the author is going to have to forgive me because I don't remember who it was, but it was something about design. It was about designing websites, optimizing websites, that sort of a thing. It was a chapter anyway, but their definition there was like, when you're designing a website, you have to think about, like, is a drunk person in a hurry gonna get it?
I love
I'm
that.
like, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely,
great.
like it has to, yeah.
Hopefully, the
So
people driving
that's
by are
definitely,
not drunk, but if they're in a
hopefully,
hurry,
yeah.
they will be able to understand what it is that we do just from the logo.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think they're gonna get it. Yeah. What about the domain name? I saw you have veg.net. You have the fully written out veterinaryemergencygroup.com, and you also have veg.com. Like,
Yeah.
what's your strategy there? What was the thinking behind it all?
I think really the idea is, whoever might know us by name can easily find us online. Most people come to our website through a search. I guess I could check. I also have to remind people, I'm a veterinarian. I'm not a marketing professional. We have an amazing chief marketing officer named Leslie Semigrin. She's amazes me every day with her expertise and her creativity. Um, but the idea is simple. Even if you don't search for anything, if you remember VEG or Veterinary Emergency Group, you'll be able to find our website like that. We originally had veg.vet,
Okay.
VET, Victor Edward Thomas. But that was confusing. A lot of people automatically, that's the problem, I think, with alternative, what are they called?
Extensions.
Extensions. Is people, will go to the famous.com, and if you don't own that, it's a problem. And so we bought veg.com. We own that. Now I give out as my email address when I run into people. I tell them it's super easy. I'm David. This is Veg. It's david@veg.com. And that makes it a lot easier. Veterinaryemergencygroup.com is a lot to type out, but
Yeah.
if for some reason you don't remember Veg, you can certainly remember Veterinary Emergency Group.
Mm. Yeah, and I completely agree with you. And I encourage anyone doing that, and not for other reason, but ultimately, and that's the advice I often give, it's not even about what you think, because I talk to a lot of people and they go, yeah, but I'm okay typing my name. It's like, yes, but what about your audience?
Right.
So ultimately it's all about simplifying your customers life. And what you just said, if they're going to type that and that's what they end up typing and that's what's easy for them, you have that. If they don't remember that, or for whatever reason they remember the long version, you have that as well. So it's all about making life easier for your customers,
Absolutely. I'm a big
especially when you
fan.
have an emergency service. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of service design. That's what I read a lot about. And when I think about and experience design, I think about our customers' experience. It starts off in a panic. And the
Mm.
last thing that they want to do is try to remember a complicated domain name if that's the way that they're choosing to access that. So,
Absolutely. You did mention at the beginning of our conversation your team as well, and it does seem like that's something that's very important to you. And I can see that throughout your website and social media. Tell me a little bit more about that team culture, and yeah,
I'm
how
glad,
did you get to run it
I'm
that way?
glad you asked. So we spend a lot of time thinking about what we call the veg experience. And you'll see that people who focus on customer experience often learn their lesson the hard way and realize that they need to
Mm.
also focus on employee experience. Uh, there's a great book called The Experience Mindset. The author's last name, I believe, is Bova, I think. And the whole point of this book is that you cannot consider customer experience in a vacuum. You always have to integrate customer experience in tandem with employee experience. The equation we use is VX, which is veg experience, equals CX times EX. And for example, when we want to improve our customer experience, one of our spikes is see a doctor right away. When you walk into a veg, you will be seen by a doctor in under 60 seconds. That's our goal. And to make that happen, the way we first approached it is telling our doctors, just get up out of your seat and go and run over and see people in under 60 seconds, which sounds great, easier said than done. And what we realized is we can significantly decrease our employee experience by just trying to improve our customer experience in a vacuum. And what we realized is we need to actually leverage technology, processes, people, culture in order to make it easier and more rewarding for our employees to actually deliver that customer experience. That's the later learning. So we talk a lot about, we used to say veggie experience, but really it's our veg experience, and we talk about customer experience and employee experience. We do a lot of work on that much more recently.
That's wonderful. And I think it's getting increasingly, and actually when you're in a, like, you're not an online business, you do advertise and keep in touch with your clients, I'm sure, and manage a lot of things online, but people ultimately walk into your clinics. So that's even more relying, therefore, on that human interaction. And absolutely, I don't think even online businesses are struggling to, it's not even hide, but like if there's some mismatch between what you say your company stands for and how your employees communicate that or even live that nowadays, there's just a huge problem with that. And I have a potentially silly, I don't know if it's a silly example, but I remember I had a membership for a gym, and there was one employee who would, like, twice, 3 times an hour go out and smoke and throw cigarette butts on the floor. And it's just ruined my whole experience with the whole brand of it's like, yeah, I know that's one individual, but you don't know who's working for you. You don't, it's your job to choose and manage those people.
I love one of that Vamsi Polimetla, who was one of your previous guests, had a great line, which I'm totally stealing. It's along the lines of, you have to walk the talk. He said, your video has to match your audio. And I think that's really true. It becomes very, very difficult when you have a lot of employees in multiple units around the country. You're trying to make sure that the what people experience is what they're expecting, and what they're expecting is what you put out there and market. And that's really your brand, especially if we're relying on people to tell their friends and to come back themselves when they have another emergency.
Absolutely.
You talked about culture. You asked about culture before, and I kind of stopped short when I said we think a lot about our employee experience. A big part of our employee experience is our culture. We have one big differentiator for us in the industry, where there really is a shortage of veterinarians and veterinary nurses. I think we find a lot of success in recruiting and retaining those veterinarians and veterinary nurses because of our culture. We have a very clearly defined culture, which is actually an interesting study in internal branding and marketing. We have a book. It's like our Bible. It's called the Manifesto. It's like 300 pages long. It's not an employee. Oh. This is a guide on how to be a veggie, how to interact with one another. We have, like I alluded to before, memes, which are memorable sayings. They often go along with some sort of graphic to help people think about how to interact with one another. We have one called the Bananalogy, which is the analogy of bananas, where how do you interact with people who you think they're perfect when you first start working together. After about 3 months or so, you discover their blemishes. You peel the banana, the perfect banana, and underneath you discover there's a blemish. So what do? Do you throw out the entire banana because of the blemish? That's what my kids do. Do you cut out the blemish and eat the rest of the banana? You realize the rest of the banana is fine. Or can you get to the level where you actually eat the banana with the blemish, realizing sometimes the blemish is the sweetest part? And so we wrap that idea into a meme called the Bananalogy, and that's helpful for our people to learn how to interact with one another in stressful situations where your blemishes pop out. This person laughs too loud. That person has an anger management issue. Maybe this person dresses weird, but you still find a way to get along with one another. That's our culture is made of that. We treat each other well, which makes it a more enjoyable place to work, and also spills over into the way we interact with our customers and patients.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure that's felt throughout like the whole line of communications. I was going to ask you, and we sort of, I think as we're talking, you're partly answering that, but most of the people I talk to, they have online businesses. So like scalability is a whole different game. And I was actually surprised when I looked into it, like the number of clinics you mentioned, you have the number of employees, you've got investment. Like, how do you do that with something that is very on the spot, physical, day in, day out? And like you mentioned, like you have to manage those people, close, keep them into that culture. And how do you do that?
Yeah, it's been a fascinating journey of discovery as a veterinarian. If you think about the difference between, let's say, software, especially software as a service, it is infinitely scalable. You produce one version of it on a server somewhere, and then the whole world can access it. Your product is manufactured one time in one place and experienced by a limitless number of people. That is amazing, and I'm incredibly jealous. Then there are product companies where the product is manufactured multiple times, but in one place or a few places, you have a tremendous amount of control over the production and manufacture of your product. And then what you have to, imagine, let's say Apple and iPhones. I guess you just have to make sure that your factories are doing a good job of manufacturing a good quality product. Maybe you have to worry about shipping, to the stores. And then Steve Jobs was very concerned about the experience from the time that you purchased this. And so you have stores where you're now buying, but the product is really the source of much of the experience. I'm jealous of that as well. I would love to just kind of focus on one factory and have the majority of my experience determined by the success of the manufacturer at that one factory. You go to services, it's very different. The service is our product. The service that we deliver to our customers, helping their pets and helping them when they need it most in an emergency, that is our product. That is manufactured per order. Every single time we have one of our 4,000 employees interacts with a family, a pet family, or a patient, they are manufacturing our product. And the next time somebody walks in, they're manufacturing it again, and you're relying on 4,000 individual manufacturers. That is daunting. And so the way that you do that is you can't do that through extreme control. You can do that in a factory by carefully, producing your robots that manufacture things. As a service, you can't. The only way to succeed there is by understanding who you're trying to hire. So hire the right people and point them in the right direction. Give them a great set of values and principles. Motivate them through fulfilling work and through natural reward, and then set them free to do those things on their own. And that's kind of the best that you can hope for. Hospitality, restaurants, all have the same problem. It's difficult, but that's where we are.
I think that's where actually a brand plays a huge role, and a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, I feel, underestimated when they feel like brand is all customer facing. It's all like trying to create that image and maintain that image and feed that image to the customer. And especially, as you said, like in the service in the service businesses, I feel brand is equally, if not even more important to your employees, because like how else can you have that consistent image and that consistent feeling of that's what we are, that they just get it and they roll with it. And you, as you said, you don't have to be there and tell them, oh, in that situation, you better do this.
Yeah. And you think it's funny, you think that's important for attracting talent, for recruiting.
Mm,
It's very, very important for retention and for engagement. The employees have to have faith in us that we are trying, they have to understand what it is we're trying to do. So we make our mission very, very clear. We're trying to help people and their pets when they need it most. Um, and then they have to have faith that from there on, we're just trying to help them do the best at that, not make them do it. Try to do help them do the best at that, because that's their reward. People who go into, if they become veterinarians or veterinary nurses, they're doing that because they know that helping people and their pets when they need it most is very rewarding. It's our job to get all of the pains out of the way. And if there are any gains associated with that, to amplify those and to help them get the job done that they're trying to do. That's the biggest reward. So they have to have faith that that's the relationship here. The relationship is, we're going to try to help you do your job as best as you can, because that's the biggest reward.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on how has technology, and most specifically now, because like everyone is ChatGPT, literally just before our call, we went to the shop. I left my computer for 10 minutes and one of the kids has been at home. She didn't go to school. She was sick. So anyway, she got onto ChatGPT and I come back and there's that image of a unicorn running away, panicking from a tsunami. I was like, that's my new spirit animal. But that's just like the level to which, and I haven't I wasn't involved there at all. Like, she figured it out on herself. What's ChatGPT? How to do it? Whatever. So how has that, if at all, affected your line of work? Where do you see technology taking you?
Yeah, so I think I'll treat technology and AI separately. Technology
Okay.
is easier to say because we have this sort of way of thinking about people's roles in three things, just because it's it's an easy number. So we say our doctors really should be focused on three things, which is talking to customers, making decisions, and doing procedures. And the reason they're focused on those three things is because that's what their customers and patients need from them and want from them. And so if they're doing anything outside of that, it's an inefficiency and not a great use of time. Our doctors are paid a lot of money. Most of that money comes from the customers. And that's just an inefficiency if they're spending their time on anything else. For example, writing records is a classic one. Our customers really do not care about our doctors writing records. Our patients, yes, it's important. A good medical record system is in some way important for medical care. In an emergency situation and for continuity of care, once we set things afterwards, honestly, the meat is mostly comes from our doctors diagnosing, coming up with treatment plans, our nurses executing those treatment plans, and providing great, compassionate care, hands-on, for our patients. The record writing thing is a big source of inefficiency. It's necessary, but it's a big source of inefficiency. And so leveraging technology to make record keeping easier is a huge place, a place where it's worth every penny we put into it because it pays off in dividends for the rest of time. So that's one big thing. If you think about things that patients are doing, one thing we've kind of done away with when you see a doctor right away, when you walk into any sort of medical facility, I don't really care where you are around the world. It's the same. The first thing you do is fill out a clipboard. You fill out something. And I was surprised when I went to some higher end urgent cares that are technologically enabled. They have an app. And I went there for the second time. The check-in process was not dramatically easier or more efficient than the first time. I still had to step up to a kiosk. I had to scan my license. I don't know whether they lost it or didn't have it, whatever. I had to scan my insurance card again, taking pictures of my face. It was, and this is my second time there. Why didn't they capture that and have it my first time? And so I think for us, we leverage technology with a client self check-in process. If there's two people in the car on your way in, one person can be filling in details so that that's helpful. But to a large degree, a big part of technology is actually eliminating things that are unnecessary. We found ourselves collecting information that we really didn't need. And we also wanted to get people help before they filled out a clipboard. So when they walk in, they were seen by a doctor and a nurse right away before they started filling out a clipboard, making promises to pay us. Before we actually did anything, we found that that wasn't a good relationship builder and that wasn't really necessary. So I guess a combination of technology, but also thinking deeply about processes and using technology to help us make processes more efficient. That's a big part of what we do and how we become better. The second part is artificial intelligence. I think I have conversations with ChatGPT all the time. And I love the new feature with the new voice to text and text to voice feature. On my walks in the morning, I just have conversations with her. It's a female voice. But I will often, for example, one of the most recent things I did was in our management structure, we're big believers in decentralization. It's kind of what I explained before, is give people direction, principles, and then set them free. And so for our leadership structure, we like to decentralize, where hopefully decisions can be made closest to the product, which is the experience and the service we provide. And so we like to decentralize to our local leaders. And so in order to promote decentralization here at our headquarters, I have to remind people all the time. And so I like to say the official pastry of veg is the donut, because it's centralized. And so I kind of mentioned that joke to a bunch of different people. Some people got it, some people didn't. And my question was, can I spread this more widely? Will people get it? So I asked ChatGPT if she thought people would get it. She did. She thought people would get it. Maybe it would require some explanation here or there. Maybe we kind of put it into our manifesto so people get it better. But using ChatGPT as a creative tool, most people use it as a search, which is unfortunate. Its best use is as a creative tool, and a tool of understanding to help you understand. That's been very helpful for me in my leadership of, my job is to clarify and to simplify to, for our people, and ChatGPT helps me do that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I do. And I feel a lot of people jumped on it as in a way to replace some things that they were doing badly to begin with. And that just doesn't work. Yeah, like you said, I love the way that you can get a lot of ideas and suggestions, but you start with something that you already have some clarity on, already have some idea of.
I heard an interview, I'm going to say it was Steven Spielberg, and I thought it was brilliant. They asked him about AI and creativity, and his answer was brilliant. He said, creativity is one of the best things about being human. Why on earth would we delegate creativity to a robot? It's like asking a robot to go on vacation for you. Like, it's the most enjoyable thing is being creative. Why would I ask a robot to do that for me? I love that idea. I certainly love being creative. So I guess I asked ChatGPT to maybe help me when I'm stuck, but I wouldn't delegate and outsource creativity to AI.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely agree with that. One question before the last, and that's like a very selfish question, because one of my kids, like, she's 12 and she wants to become a veterinarian. So I have to ask you, like, what are your thoughts? Like, where do you see the future of veterinarians, like the profession, some trends, like some ideas, like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So maybe that's a selfish question. I'll give you a biased, selfish answer. I have a 12-year-old son. I don't know if it depends on the week, whether he wants to become a veterinarian. It depends on how exhausted I look when I come home. I really think that the industry is evolving a lot. Our relationship with pets, pet ownership is only increasing, but our relationship with pets is changing, and only becoming more and more deep. And more people have their pets sleep in bed with them than ever before. People now consider pets more part of their family than ever before. I go on flights. I fly a lot, and there are more and more pets on planes than ever before. So I think it's changing. And as a result, the industry's response to this change is evolving quickly. So I guess I'll quote Jeff Bezos, who said, one of the most common, I'm paraphrasing, one of the most common questions I get is what's going to change in the next 10 years? What people don't ask often is what's not going to change in the next 10 years? And he thinks that's the more important question because you can build an enduring business around that when you know what's not going to change. And so I think in the veterinary world, thinking deep about what's not going to change, or as we discovered during COVID, what is essential in veterinary medicine? And we're lucky in that we found ourselves in the middle of an essential sector of veterinary medicine, which is emergency. I think people will always have pets, and their pets will always get into shenanigans. And when they do, they will want an experience that is full of helpfulness, transparency, openness. And that's why I think if I had to steer anybody into something in veterinary medicine, into a career in veterinary medicine, selfishly, maybe I'm biased in emergency because I think it's essential. And I also think it's exciting.
And I would imagine it's very rewarding as well. I mean, just from my experience with my pets, I think just like seeing people, obviously I'm sure there are tragic cases as well, but in the majority of cases when you like bring the good news, that must be really rewarding.
I think if you asked your daughter, walked her through a vision experiment, how she pictures herself practicing as a veterinarian in the future, probably she would describe to you an emergency experience. A dog ate something he shouldn't have and had an emergency, maybe was hit by a car and she saved its life. When I talk to kids, and I often do, that's what they have in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh dear, that reminds me of oh my God, she was I hope she's somewhere like in her room. I hope she's not gonna hear me. But that was like a really, and could be related as well, traumatic experience. Oh no, she was saying before that she wants to be a vet, but she's so a dying bird, and she was like in pieces for weeks. She was like, it was looking at me and I couldn't do anything. And I was like, yep, that thing of like I couldn't do anything. It's really powerful when you actually can.
It is. And that's why I tell people we have an amazing company that people like working for. I think our value proposition to veterinary professionals is extremely strong. People ask us often, they say it seems too good to be true. What's the catch? And we tell them the catch is actually really obvious when you think about it. It's right in front of you, which is emergency medicine is very hard. I can deal with a lot of the pain points and I can amplify the gains. But the thing that I cannot take away is that saving the lives of pets when they're having an emergency is just very, very hard. The medicine is hard. The people are hard. The diseases are hard. All that is very, very difficult. And you can't save them all, and that is hard to deal with. But I think at the same time, that's what makes it so rewarding. If you can get better at it, know that you're fantastic as a lifesaver. That's really fulfilling and rewarding.
Wonderful. Well, last question. What are you looking forward to in 2024 now that we are almost finished with 2023?
Yeah, we are at a place now where I think we figured out a lot of things. We figured out how to deliver a really, really good experience for pet owners, a healing experience for pets, and a great work experience for our employees. What I'm looking for now is bringing that same experience to many more places around the United States, and maybe even starting outside of the United States. Every time we walk around in the airport, we wear our swag everywhere. That's a big part of our culture, is our swag. It's kind of cool to be wearing a veterinary emergency shirt. And as more and more people discover our experience and love it, walking through the airport and having people come over to you to say like, "Oh, you work at Veg, you saved my dog's life."
Oh my God, that's so
really,
cool.
really rewarding. I have to say though, it really raises the stakes. I wear my swag everywhere. Everybody knows that about me. If I'm the CEO of the company, I take a big risk walking around the airport. If people don't like our company, they're going to tell me about it. And so, that's one way that my video matches my audio is I'm walking around in the airport wearing my veg shirt, encouraging people to come over and tell me about the experience. So it better have been a good one.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. That's been absolutely great. We're going to include all the ways people can reach out to you in the comments to the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tatiana.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of Smart Branding Podcast. Feel free to visit smartbranding.com for more information and reach out if you have any suggestions, questions, ideas, or just want to learn more about how a good domain name strategy can help you build a strong and successful brand. See you next time.